What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm going to talk about It Ends With Us, which is a 2024 drama that I caught on Netflix with audio description. It didn't originate on Netflix, I just didn't prioritize it until it came to Netflix. It stars Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, Jenny Slate, Hasan Minaj, Kevin McKidd, um, and is also directed by Justin Baldoni, which is interesting because it's a film about domestic violence that's being directed from a male perspective instead of a female perspective, which is interesting. It also does have audio description, so that's great. Um, it's like the same voice that narrates like every Sony movie. So I don't know who this person is, but she's basically done every single Sony movie that I can think of, at least like 90% of them. So I think they use a company called Motion Picture Solutions, and it's always the same narrator, and she doesn't seem to work for anybody else, so I'm sure she's clutch. This is a movie that sort of like goes through the relationship and sort of shows like the effects of domestic violence, like generationally too, like seeing it happen to your parents, seeing it coming down from sort of like a father's, like when you have like sort of an abusive father, abusive boyfriend, charming, but then they turn, and it kind of has a lot of ideas. This was a book, and I think perhaps maybe it worked more as a book instead of a movie, which it's something that doesn't work here. And maybe it's just Justin Baldoni as director actor. I'm not that familiar with him as an actor. I would say I'm even less familiar with him as a director. But I don't. This may be his feature directorial debut. I don't know. I think this is a film that really needed a female perspective, and it really needed um, to really sort of feel like it was more grounded coming out of Blake Lively. Actually, I've started to really enjoy sort of some of Blake's performances um, post Gossip Girl, notably The Town. I thought she was really underrated in that. I know it's a supporting performance, but I thought she was really good in The Town. Uh, and I know a lot of people like her in Age of Adeline, so she's had a couple performances that are really good. So I was looking forward to seeing what she could do here. Um, but I I think this film is best described as it was an August release, and it kind of feels like an August release. Like it's not really consequential enough that people are going to use this as a bellwether for all future films. This isn't like The Fault in Our Stars, where people are going to debate about its greatness. It didn't make like $100 million at the box office. Um, and while it's a challenging watch and not necessarily a happy watch to go and watch a film about domestic violence, especially when you know that that's what you're going to go watch, is a film that is sort of about domestic violence and rising up. What I will say for Baldoni and for the cast is that this isn't the first time we've seen a domestic violence film this year, and it's a little bit better. Tyler Perry tried to tackle this with Divorce in the Black, which is not a great movie, as well as some themes popping up, obviously, throughout TV and film. But notably, I would say Divorce in the Black really tackled, what do you do when your husband is an asshole, and go. Um, and here, the time there are different time periods that we see people through. I was actually sort of impressed with Kevin McKidd, mainly because I've always sort of seen him as an incredibly likable person, and he's definitely cast against type here. Um, and as are, by the way, Jenny Slate and Hasan Minaj, that are both turning in dramatic performances. This is a drama, so props, uh, props on that field. Um, so it's a very interesting cast, and um, it's just I guess it's a cautionary tale to many to just sort of like make sure to stand up for yourself. Don't don't make don't make choices based on apologies. When you start to see that temper flare, get yourself out of there because it's a good indicator of something more. Honestly, to me, like the most impactful moment of the film was towards the end, and I didn't even like the audio description um, that accompanied it because it felt uncomfortable. Like Blake really delivered sort of like the blow that you've been wanting her to deliver, and like the audio description was that his eyes were boring into her, and I'm like, I don't know that that's the word I would have chosen. You know what I'm saying? Because it makes it seem like he's like giving her like a death stare. And then he has to back off of that. And it's like, but in that moment, when you're sitting there and you're listening to what she has to say, if we're supposed to have any sort of human reflection at all in this character, um, after she said it, he can't still be boring into her. I would not have chosen that word. I would have chosen maybe he stares intently at her, something like that. Boring to me makes it sound like that he's like trying to turn himself into Cyclops from the X-Men so that he can blast her head off with a laser. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels, there's something about the intensity of the word use of bore where I'm just like, if that really is his facial expression, then fuck Justin Baldoni for being a shitty actor, but and also a director for choices in that moment. But um, like you can start off that scene, but it's the fact that she's already said something and then he's still like, and I'm just like, dude, this is the most like impactful moment this movie has had for Blake Lively, and you're fucking it up. Just go sit down in a chair somewhere. And I'm not gonna say like we're supposed to necessarily like this character or relate to him or be like, let's give him a second chance. But you have to understand like the push and pull of your movie and the weight and where you're, when you bring down the hammer finally at the end, when Blake finally comes in and goes, "This is my speech time," like that's when the audience sort of feels the emotional weight and core of everything that you've been trying to say. And I just kind of felt like it's possible that he's not staring at her that intensely. Uh, it's not like a death stare, that maybe he's just sort of pondering what she's thinking heavily. But it was just the choice of the word. I would not have chosen that. I would have been like, is he really, if this was my quality check, I would have been like, is he really boring? Like, does he look like he's about to murder her in that moment? Because if not, then I would choose a different word. Um, but if he does look like he's about to bore, then I guess I'll accept that and just say it's a shitty movie and move on with my life. Just be like, just about though he sucks as an actor. I don't know, and a director for not understanding how to direct that moment. Um, I mean, he could have looked away. He could have. There's so many other choices you can make as an actor in that moment to show reflection instead of letting Blake have this emotional moment and then just like giving her a death stare as a result. It's so odd because then he has to back off of it. By the way, because he backs off of it and he looks down or something like that. But he's still got the death stare. He's like, it's like, this is so weird. Um, but yeah, I liked uh, Blake's little moment at the end. Not to spoil it, I've talked enough about it, but there's a moment at the end. You'll live in a mystery now. You're like, we got to get to this moment at the end. It's like, you don't have to. If you're feeling the movie, if you're vibing, I would say stay with it to the end so you can see what Blake has to say about the whole thing. Her character, whatever character's name is, I can't remember. Um, but I thought the audio description was fine. Everything is modern. So generally with modern things, I become less trifling on the little like, oh my god, what is she wearing? What is her hairstyle? It's like probably modern. I don't know. She probably got it tied back. I mean, like basic things. I do look more for like general character description, What does this person look like? Because those are things that don't change. The things that change from scene to scene, like I don't constantly need to know whatever random like hoodie she's wearing, from sequence to sequence. But yeah, you have to establish each character. And I felt like I did an okay job of that. So otherwise it's a really weird drama. It feels like the kind of thing that somebody who uh grew up in the shadow of Nicholas Sparks and then was like, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna be like the anti I'm gonna be like Nicholas Sparks, but different. Like they tried to do something else with this. Yeah, I'm sure this was a better book. I'm sure this is just like I didn't read this book, but I read there's a movie with Daisy Edgar Jones that they did, Where the Crawdads Sing. I read that book. That book is way better than the movie. It's like, oh my god. I don't usually do that, but every once in a while. I always acknowledge when the book is really close or good, and The Fault in Our Stars, by the way, that is a really great adaptation. Like, if you've read the book and seen the movie, like, I don't think they left anything. Somehow they managed to put the entire book on screen, minus maybe like, I don't know, 3% of the book, but it's like really small. Like that basically is the whole book on, which is one of the reasons why that film was such a huge hit, is the people who read the book actually were able to come and appreciate the movie. Um, and then some of the other choices, when you watch something like The Hunger Games, yeah, they made some choices that were different, but some of the stuff in The Hunger Games wouldn't really work on camera because it's kind of nightmarish. Like the hounds that transform are actually supposed to be hybrids of the dead tributes mixed with dogs, which sounds kind of weird and nightmarish to try to put onto a PG-13 movie. To have like a zombified wolf rue coming after you. um so like sometimes I can understand the changes and why like it didn't make it from book to screen. I don't know about this. If you read the book, let me know what you think about it. But audio description was mostly fine until the end. It's funny how one word really sticks with you and you're like, god, that ruined it for me. That ruined that moment. It ruined the whole scene, which was like my favorite scene. I was like, oh, thank god, she's finally got a monologue. She's gonna say something really important and resonant, and she does. And then we got boring. I was like, Jesus. Anyway, um, so this is all right. This is not. This is fine. This is like a one-time watch. I'm not gonna. Some movies have an emotional resonance to me, and I want to watch them again and again because they really, truly moved me, one way or the other. And I know it's hard to do a domestic violence movie and to really get to resonate. I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but I mean, I can watch a sad movie over and over. I've seen The Notebook a dozen times. That movie is devastating at the end. So, for some reason, this movie just doesn't make me go, I'd love to see this again. So, but for a one-time watch, yeah, I'd say that. I'd say go ahead, as long as you can sit through a movie about domestic violence. If not, that's your trigger warning. I've talked about it enough in this review. And if you didn't know what this was, if you stumble into this movie, that's your fault. Like, if you're triggered by domestic violence and friends have taken you to this and, like, you didn't get a heads up, I don't know. Like, if you're just perusing on Netflix and you didn't know what this was and you're not paying attention online, you didn't watch my review, sorry, I apologize. But if you have friends and they know that you would be triggered by a domestic violence movie and they let you see this movie anyway, I remember I had a friend who had just lost her husband, and literally somebody recommended Virgin River to them. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, who's this person? I'm gonna punch them in the face. It's like, why the fuck would you recommend Virgin? Like, who? Because she's, like sitting there trying to like get into like something, like she's grieving or whatever, and sort of sitting at home. I found out somebody recommended Virgin. Of course, she was like destroyed. Like she didn't. I don't even think she got into the series. But like once you realize what it is, it's like why on earth would you recommend that show to somebody who just lost their husband? Like what a shitty fucking thing to do. So yeah, I wouldn't like if I knew somebody had struggled with domestic violence, I would not be like, hey, you know what would be great? It Ends With Us. I'd be like, hey, there's a movie called It Ends With Us. It's about domestic violence. You know whether or not you can handle that. You know, you should make your own life decision. Like, tell people if you know. God, I hope that's happening with this movie. But I don't know for a grade. Um, I think Blake's good here. I think she's been better, and I think Blake is the reason to watch the movie. So if you, yeah, if you want to keep checking out the stuff that Blake is doing and continue to support her career so she can do things that are a little bit more interesting, other than buying, the fuck did she buy like $30,000 jeans? Like, then tweeted about it. It's like, we have poor people, Blake. Do you not know that? I don't care what those jeans are made of. I wouldn't tell people I bought them. Like, if that's how you want to spend your, fine. Don't brag about buying jeans that are that fucking expensive. Anyway, so I can't remember how expensive they were stupid. It was like really, for a pair of jeans, you're like, did Jesus wear them? Like, like what is, like who wore those jeans? What on earth? Anyway, so I'm gonna give It Ends With Us a B minus. I think it's fine. Like for a one-time watch, yeah, it's in my like good, not great range. One-time watch, fine. Liked it enough. There's enough reason here. I wouldn't be really excited to see anything else by Justin Baldoni as a director or an actor, to be totally honest. I think he was on Grey's Anatomy, and I think that's why Kevin McKidd is here. As I think he was one of those like later additions to the cast, sort of when I stopped watching around. I can tell you the exact point when I stopped watching, and it was when we added another Grey. It wasn't Lexi either. It was the next one. I was like, you can't do this twice. And it was just after a whole bunch of cast exits. And I was like, I'm not doing this. You can't just every time you need a backup Grey, just write another Grey into the show, which is hilarious because now the show is in its 21st, 22nd season without a Grey as a series regular. So clearly it was unnecessary from the beginning. You know, they never needed to do it. But you can do it once, and we got Lexi, and that was great. And I'm not saying that the other, I can't remember her name because I left the show. Whatever her name was. I'm not saying she can't be on the show, but just doing the continuous like, oh my god, it's another Grey. Just in case Ellen Pompeo wants to do better things with her life. I thought it felt very cheap. So I left. And I think Justin Baldoni joined after that. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the other side.